performance. That's something that EVs have kind of redefined. It's not your average angry sounding vehicle anymore. But today I want to take a step back. Go back to that angry, raw sounding performance vehicle and talk about how that compares with the new modern EV. And really how a modern performance vehicles compares with that modern EV. This is Everyday Driven, where we talk about real life, real cars, and how all of that meshes together. Those of you with a keen eye may notice I'm not driving the Jeep Wagon RS today. I am indeed driving the 2024 Audi RS3. The Jeep had to go in for some service today, and my husband was gracious enough to let me borrow this car and talk to you guys a little bit about it. I will start off with saying I am not a huge fan of performance cars. I don't like the way they ride. I think the suspension setups are way too stiff. I don't like that my daily commute does not do a vehicle of that caliber justice. This car in particular, as I've mentioned before, is one that always feels like it wants to go faster. It feels like it's never satisfied with the speed that you're running at on the highway. Even when you're running 70, 75 miles per hour, it still wants to go faster. And with having that in mind, it's doing this car an injustice to sit in traffic, in particular the stop and go traffic I deal with on I-4 every day when I go home from work. This car wants to be driven. It's track ready. It wants to be out thrashing around a racetrack, going in and out of corners, and just living its best life. All of that being said, it's not a bad car. I really shouldn't dog it too much. Yes, I don't like sport-tuned suspension, but the suspension tuning in this car is really good. It stays so flat through corners. It delivers the power in such a well-refined manner through the Quattro Haldex system. The 2.5-liter inline 5-cylinder engine that's in this car is so perfect. It's smooth, yet there's a little bit of imperfection in there to let you know that this is an oddball, unique engine. The 401 horsepower that the US spec version of this car produces is plenty. And shockingly, I was doing some math, and this car has a power to weight ratio that's almost exactly the same as my Jeep, which I find really interesting because that thing is way heavier. It definitely does not get the power delivery the same way this car does. And it's interesting to think about how this car and that one in particular are about the same on the power scale if you consider that ratio. But they're two totally different driving experiences, even while being that powerful. The Jeep has a nice kind of cushy ride, you know, it doesn't float along the highway, but it doesn't feel every single bump the same way that the RS3 does. The power delivery isn't as smooth in the Jeep. There's some torque steer when the front engine kicks in. But in the RS3, it's very smooth, very uniform delivery of power through all four wheels all the time. The RS3 is also surprisingly economical when you get it out on the highway for a longer stretch. We've easily gotten 30 miles per gallon on road trips in this vehicle, but it is not a fan of stop-and-go traffic. The transmission isn't sure what gear it wants to be in half the time, because it's always trying to advance the gear and get in the most economical gear, which does lead to some jerkiness while you're, letting on and off of the accelerator, and that kind of results in some crappy fuel economy. Stop and go traffic will typically get anywhere between 19 and 21 miles per gallon. Not the best thing in the world. But beyond that, it's a great performance vehicle for somebody who wants a car that, they could do their daily commute in like my husband does. But then if they want to go run around the track on the weekend with the same vehicle, it's perfectly capable of doing that. And you can have 4 adults sitting in it while that's happening. One other thing that does bother me about this car, and it bothers me with all performance Audis. We had the same issue with the S5 we had prior to this car. But that's the amount of brake dust and brake noise that these cars ultimately generate. If you're in stop-and-go traffic, as the rotors and the pads heat up, they start to squeak, almost like your pads are low and you're scraping metal on metal. And that's not the case. This car is still practically brand new, less than 20,000 miles. The pads have plenty of life left on them, and they still squeak. They also generate an obscene amount of brake dust. Wash the car a week later, wheels are covered in brake dust again, and there's not a lot of surface area to really cover on these. This particular generation of RS3 has a wide open wheel design, and it just gets covered quickly. But beyond all of that, I think one of the things I love the most about this car is the noise that it makes. And I know that's not going to resonate well through this video, and I'll try to do something different that shows what the exhaust note of this car is. But when you mash it and you let this thing get up to 5,000 RPM, and you get that little pop and crackle from the exhaust, it's just perfect. I love it. I love the exhaust note of this car. I've never had a car, never thought I would own a car that would give off a sound like that. And there's something about that 5-cylinder oddball engine that's just satisfying. More satisfying than a throaty V8 or a V10. It's just different. All of that being said, though, it is a truly nice performance vehicle. I may not think it's comfortable. I may think it's loud inside because of the amount of road noise that translates through the low-profile tires. But it is something that we could take out on a weekend, find a nice winding road, and just have some fun. I certainly can't have that kind of fun in the Jeep. That's for certain. So, that's my take on the RS3. I do want to do another video and talk with my husband, because this is his daily driver. I think he has some different feelings about the car than I do. He certainly feels the opposite from what I feel about vehicles in general. He thinks they should be compact and sporty, whereas I think they should be big and boxy. And it would provide a nice contrast to what I'm saying. There are some other different videos that we're going to be doing coming up. There's a trip overseas that we'll be taking, and I'll be renting a car and intend to do the Americans' take on driving in the UK. We'll talk about the vehicle that we'll be driving, how road rules are different in the UK, and stuff that's been shocking and difficult to learn during that trip. We'll also talk some more about the Jeep and some of the recent items that have come up with it. So, as always, please like and subscribe. I hope that you found this a little bit educational, and hope that you found it interesting, and I hope that I'll catch you next time. See ya.